One of the traps I see folks fall into if they are sending one-off emails is that they try to make a single email do all of the things. If you feel like you want to put bullet points in a cold email, don't. What you're trying to do is combine however many bullet points it is, you're trying to combine 4 emails into one. So if you catch yourself being tempted to organize the email using bullet points, just acknowledge that that's 4 different stories that you're trying to tell and make each of them their own email. So when we think about relevance, we have so few words to help somebody understand what the thing is that we believe is relevant to them and why we believe having a conversation or engaging with us is a great way to explore that, that opportunity, that challenge. You can only talk about one very specific thing at a time.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Leslie Venetz. Leslie is founder of the Sales-Led GTM Agency, go-to-market agency, but I know her as the Earn the Right lady. So, Leslie, welcome.
Thank you, Fred. I'm jazzed to be here.
Earn the Right lady, is that okay?
I love it. I'm telling you, that is the highest of compliments when you know that the thing that you have repeated over and over and over again for 1,000+ days on LinkedIn has actually stuck in people's brains. So I'll take it.
Before I go into what it all means and everything, there's actually a little lesson straight away in there about repetition to get sticky with the phrase or a concept that you're pushing, isn't there?
Yeah. Interestingly, I host a book club, and the book that we read and we did a discussion of last night was Thinking Fast and Slow. And my gosh, is that one of the longest books that I've ever read in my life. But one of the concepts that the author reiterates over and over again is that we will, as humans, believe things, even if they are untrue, simply because we've heard them so much. So luckily, the things that I'm saying are true, but it was a real moment of,
I was going to say, where are you going with this?
Yeah, but it was a moment of like, my gosh, I see. Like it made me think about social media in a slightly different way, because you see people that are so dialed in on their message and they just repeat the same thing over and over and over again. And at first you might think, I'm not sure if that resonates with me. And then the 1,000th time you've heard it, you're like, oh yeah, I've known that for years. Yeah. So it was an interesting concept to come across in the book.
It's easy to get bored of what you're saying. Other people aren't necessarily, because you're saying it all the time and you know every single one of those 1,000 times you've said it. Now other people might only pick it up 4 or 5, 6, literally 6, 7, not 600, 700. So that's why we have to keep in our lane, keep saying the same thing, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a good reminder.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so we'll earn the right then for the uninitiated. That might be like, come on, what does that even mean? Can you give us a sort of a high-level overview? What's that all about?
Yeah, Earn the Right is a litmus test that I came up with as I was an individual contributor, player, coach, sales leader, because I felt everything that I was doing came back to asking myself, have I earned the right to ask the prospect for their time, for their attention, for their business? So I'm writing a cold email. What have I put in it that has earned me the right to even ask them to take the time to scan it? I'm preparing for a discovery call. How have I prepared for that call to make sure that I'm showing up in a way that earns the right to the time that they are giving me? So the basics is just like constantly asking yourself, how have I earned the right to make this ask of my prospect?
How have I, or what am I going to do to make sure I have? Because people haven't got more time these days, have they? I mean, all of these technological advances, we're supposed to be sitting around just enjoying all this time that's been saved with AI and everything else. I seem to have less time than ever.
Yeah. And there's some really interesting conflicting data because I'm sure by this point, most people have seen the data from Gartner that was like, most B2B prospects don't want to even deal with a B2B salesperson. But if you dig into the data, and then this fact is replicated by Forrester research, it's not that they don't want to spend time with a B2B seller. They don't want to spend time with a B2B seller that wastes their time, but they actually are willing to spend more time with B2B sellers who show up with a point of view, who show up with valuable insights. So time is more constricted than ever, which I think means for us as sellers that we have to show up like more prepared, more in that earn the right mindset of how am I going to make sure that every minute this prospect spends with me is valuable for them.
And you've already given us a clue there of how to do this, which is with a valuable point of view, an insight, something that's going to perspective that's going to kickstart the conversation. It's not going to get them going, ooh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
How can we
absolutely.
start to do that then?
Well, I think about it from two different perspectives because I spend a lot of time in the top of the funnel. So I think the way that we garner attention with our outbound or generally our top of the funnel sales messaging is a bit different than how I would suggest preparing to earn the right during sales conversations in the middle of the or bottom of the funnel. Top of funnel, I think it's about indexing on relevance, often indexing on relevance over personalization and making sure that you're doing everything you can to increase the cognitive ease or decrease the cognitive load for the person interacting with your sales messaging. So you need to write short, punchy, to the point messages that mean something to the person reading them. And what I hate to see, what we all hate to see, are the emails that start with, "Hi, Fred. I hope you're well. I'm Leslie Venetz, your account executive at ABC Company. What we sell is," but if you go and look in your inbox right now, I bet that's 80% of the messages that you get.
Yeah.
So luckily the bar is I don't know if it's lucky for people that are willing to rise to the occasion, the bar is pretty low. Unlucky for our buyers that have to engage with hundreds of very, very bad sales messages on a daily basis.
Oh yeah, because we just become immune to it. It's just ignore. It's like, and of course we look at it on phones, don't we? So swipe, 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 swipe. There we go. It's nice and clean. I might
Yeah.
have missed a gem in there, but unfortunately, because the behaviour of the many, the few might be losing out. Okay, so we're talking top of funnel, or early in the process, getting involved, getting the whole conversation started. About relevance over personalization. So again, relevance is an interesting word. What do you mean by that? Let's break that one down a little bit.
Yeah. So I think it may be helpful to first describe what I mean by personalization,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
sales reps for years have been told that they need to personalize their emails. And now we have this onslaught of AI technology that promises that they will personalize emails on our behalf. What that personalization looks like 98% of the time is, I see your title at company. I see you went to this university. Congrats on your Series A. And then the very next sentence is, here's the widget I'm selling.
Hmm.
So two things are happening with most of the personalization that's being included in emails today. One is that you're pretty much just reading somebody's LinkedIn profile back to them, which is not helpful. That's not actual personalization if you're just telling them something about themselves they already know. And the second is that the personalization token that's being included has nothing to do with the rest of the email. So it creates a huge amount of disconnect which is why I tend to be an anti-personalization person, not because I don't think really well done personalization is great, simply because the way people use and talk about personalization today is trash. It doesn't work. So if I had to choose personalization over relevance, I'm always going to choose relevance, because I don't care if you know that I went to Cabo in 2017. What I do care about is that I can trust you to understand what's generally going on with people that have a job like mine in the industry I'm in, with the customers I sell to. That's going to get a lot more credibility a lot more quickly than some random personalization token that pretty much just is reading the news back to your prospect.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I love what you said there. So trust to understand that people who have a job like mine, the kind of things going on in their life, but you might then be able to come in and make it a little bit easier, faster,
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah, it's funny because I get quite a lot personalized. At the moment, I have my job as author at Ethical Selling. You'll probably do this, and it's going to send you nuts. When your book comes out and you give yourself a job as the author of the book, and people say, "Hey, how's it going at Ethical Selling?" Mate, it's a book.
It's
You've
the book.
literally just showed that you've done no proper research on this.
Yes.
Off you
Yeah.
go.
I have a couple of jobs on my LinkedIn profile that are like, I'm a mentor at Girls Club, or I'm like I volunteer at the Talaverde Foundation. And then I get outreach from people that shows that they did not even do a smidge of research. Because it will be like, hey, as the volunteer at Talaverde Foundation, have you thought about, and I'm like, what? Did you read
Automating
that?
your processes.
Right, right. Like, no, of course I haven't thought about that,
Cupcakes
because
out
I'm a
faster.
volunteer at a nonprofit foundation that obviously isn't like, I don't need your web builder service, sir.
No, it is. So when we trust, or I wrote trust in capitals as making little notes here. You've broken it, or you've made no chance, not broken it, 'cause you never had it, but you've no chance of building it from the very get-go. That's it. It's bust now.
Yeah.
We hard to get that back.
That's it. I
Yeah.
mean, I know trust is something that both of us talk about a lot. And like, even when I was choosing the title for the book, as you know, so many titles were thrown out. We brainstormed this and we brainstormed that. And a piece of feedback I was getting from my publisher and my brand strategist was to not include words like earn or words like trust, because those might create a bit of a mental blockage for the stranger at the, whatever bookstore picking it up. And I finally pushed back and said, no, like, these are the words that define everything about how I picture sales and how I think that we as sellers should interact with our buyers. I have to have those words in my title, because to your point, Fred, if you burn that trust from email one or conversation one because you show up not having prepared to offer anything of value, like not having done even just the littlest bit of research to show that you have a baseline of understanding, you've burned your chance. Like, you're in the negative with trust
Yeah.
from word number one, and it's going to be so much harder to try to bring that barometer back to the positive than just start out with relevance.
You might, well, it's better just to not bother, because you're more likely to make a mistake. But even I would say, and again, I'll tell your thoughts on this. You're using space to say something that's irrelevant. Even hello, I hope you're well.
Yeah.
I'm British, and this being polite and everything's very, very important to us. But I know that's a waste of space. It's like, I don't
Yeah.
even know who you are. Why do you hope that I'm well? Gone, swiped out. Now, you might have actually got some reasonable stuff after that, because you've not put fake personalization in. You put a bit of genuine. We do hope I'm
Mm.
well, but I don't know. What's your thought on that one? Is that a waste of space?
It is such a waste of space. I have such strong emotions about this.
Oh, stronger than
First,
me. This is gonna be good.
if you're British, wouldn't you say trust your well?
Well, now I've got out of the habit of saying it.
Um, Okay, here's my take on this, and it really, really, really pisses people off. But I believe that including, I hope you're well, trust you're well at the beginning of an email is extraordinarily selfish. It is done exclusively to make the person sending the email feel better about themselves. It has nothing to do with the recipient of the email. You don't know them. They are a stranger to you. Spending those first few words, that preview text saying like, "Hi, Fred, I hope you're well," is a garbage way to start an email. I mean, simply the data shows us that that does not work. That decreases your open rates because you've not said anything that makes them want to click open and see more. But it's selfish because it adds no value to them. So if we think about it in the context of earn the right, you've done nothing to earn the right to ask them to open that email or to keep reading. Instead, you've padded your own feelings to make yourself feel a little bit less intrusive by starting the email with something that feels good to you, but does nothing for the reader.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love it. And
Hot take.
let's just be dead clear here. People are thinking, yeah, but I've known this customer for 15 years. Oh, it's a totally different thing. You probably do hope they're well and they know who you are. They're going to own it. So they've been a customer for 15 years, probably doing something right. Well, they've got no alternative. Either way, they're going to open it. But we are talking cold here. Don't know you. This thing has popped up in my box, uninvited, and they hope I'm well
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
yourself feel
Bang
better.
on. This is specifically for
Yep.
cold outreach.
Yep.
If you are friendly with somebody, if it's a customer, be friendly with them. You
Yeah.
have built a relationship. If it's cold, there's just no excuse to continue to start emails with "I hope you're well." But I will give folks one hack because I do know that it can be difficult to remove that. Like there is an emotional element to why people include "I hope you're well" at the beginning of the emails. So start by moving it to your sign off. So "I hope you're well, comma, Leslie." And so it works, right? Because you're still including it, you're still saying the nice thing, but you are not wasting that extraordinarily valuable like space at the very beginning of your email with your preview text saying something that doesn't matter. So start
Is
there.
that you where you've just said, look, just move it to there just to get, just to allay
Well,
people's emotions so they can now get, just put it there then. Let's get into the good stuff because I really prefer that you
yes.
start now concentrating on the relevance piece. This is where your brain should be at, not whether someone's well or not, you're saying it or not, how well you're feeling about it or not. Relevance, relevance, relevance. What do we mean by relevance?
Yeah. Well, first, I will say that what I have learned in almost 20 years of leading people and training people and consulting is that most of my job is change management. And so much of that is, and I'm sure you found some of the same, that it is getting folks to a mindset where they are willing to change, willing to embrace change. And so when we think about somebody who has been starting every single sales email with "I hope you're well" for their 10, 15-year career, it is, I think, easier as a first leap to say, why don't we just move it down instead of saying "that's stupid, remove it." So I'm just, I'm trying to be a little gentler in my very direct approach to feedback. And I found that that is a way that I can support the change management efforts. And then once they move it to the bottom, they start getting better open rates, they start getting better click-through and reply rates, and they buy into what I am teaching on a faster and a deeper level. And then they go to relevance, which was your next question.
Yeah.
So relevance, the basics of relevance are, have you said something that matters to the recipient? And spoiler alert for folks, you do not matter to them. Your company does not matter to them. What you sell does not matter to them. And I don't, like, I'm not even being tongue in cheek when I say that, because some of the best sellers I know believe so deeply in what they sell that I use the word relevance and they hear, well, this should be relevant to them because it's amazing and it's going to change their life. But that type of thinking, well, great. Like, I'm so happy that you sell something you believe in. You've jumped forward. You first need to make sure that the prospect believes that you understand the outcomes they're trying to achieve, the problem that you're trying to solve, before you've earned the right to tell them how you and your product can solve it.
Yeah. It's interesting what you say about that. And again, so being serious about it, I, I think a lot of the problems with companies that cause this problem in the salespeople, because they'll come in and they sort of take the royal jelly and all this sort of stuff, brainwash them into how wonderful we are and this stuff we do is fantastic. And they'll do tons and tons of training around that, but not so much training on actually how to go and speak to people.
Mm.
So if nobody's told you any other way, well, why wouldn't I tell people that? Because then they want to talk to me about it, won't they? It
So
it
true.
makes sense to someone who's not been through training and understood the way this all actually works. That would be the obvious way to go about it, wouldn't it?
Mm.
And then
Well, and
that's
even
why I
if you
think,
think about an onboarding program, it includes a ton of product training, but how much of it includes listening to customer testimonials or doing a voice of customer workshop, or even just spending time understanding the market conditions that impact the customer? Or for a lot of newer sellers, they've never been in a leadership position before. So why would we expect that they understand how a director of HR or a chief financial officer thinks? Because that is so much different than how they have ever had to think about something, up to this point in their life. So I do think that you're onto something where the companies might be letting their sellers down and over indexing on product knowledge and not spending enough time helping sellers understand what really matters to the prospects they're calling on in terms of those outcomes. Um,
yeah, it's problem or product. Which one are you talking
yeah.
about? They will train people in products until they're blue in the face, but on the problem people have. And it's interesting. I know we were chatting before we hit record. I do a lot of work in the engineering world, and this can be really quite a deep problem for the salesperson because what's happened is the salesperson is often an engineer, professional engineer, who's done some really good engineering stuff. They have solved problems. They've done good things that have had an impact and made difference. And so it makes sense to them to talk about that. It's really hard to kind of unpick that, to pull it into the problem of the customer, to then go into all the great stuff that you can do because they've done
Mm,
it and they've seen the impact of it. It's kind of harder almost than a newbie who's just kind of been trained in all this good stuff. Really have to work to get into that this relevance to them and what matters. It's toughy.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're so right. I work with a lot of folks that sell to what I would consider a more technical
Yep.
persona. So like engineering, or I work with a lot of companies that sell to the IT persona. And
Yep.
one of the biggest pieces of or areas of pushback I get is that they believe those folks, those more technical buyers, need and want longer, very technical emails. And when we talk about cold outreach, it's just untrue. We do a real injustice to the recipient of the email by not listening to the data or not listening to the troughs of behavioral science that we have to back up how the brain receives and processes messaging, by maybe layering some of our own assumptions, our own lived experiences over messaging and making them too long and too wordy and too technical, because the outcome, and you know this, Fred, is that they open it up and it's overwhelming to their brain. And so they scan it, it's too hard to digest. They just delete it. So they're not even reading those really long, wordy, technical cold emails.
Yeah. There's a phenomenon that I talk about with engineers, which is the engineering superego. And this is the sort of that this is the way to do it. So that you've got another thing, and this might happen with the IT guys as well. In other words, I've solved this problem before. This is how to do it. I'm going to set it all out for you because I'm so damn clever that you need to do it this way. So even if someone did read it, they might come to you and go, well, I don't want to do it that way. Actually, that's not right. But it is right though, because I've done it. Well, it's not the way I'm going to do it. And you end up in this kind of battle of wills. I mean, even if we ever get into that stage. So there's a lot of unpicking. We
Ah.
need this. We need this expertise at some stage, but it's the sequencing of it, the timing of it to get into that conversation to earn the right, as you say.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're so bang on that it's not that you'll never get there. It's that you have to work your way up to the person you're talking to caring enough about your expertise and about your opinion to want to lean in and listen. What did you call that? The
It's
engineering
the
super?
engineering superego.
I like
A guy
that.
called Mark Rathor introduced me to that term, and I use it a lot now. And it's one of those that, I mean, I use it to break down, to turn the right. People look at me and they scowl, and then you explain it, and they go, "Yeah, you understand us. You get us.
Oh,
We do that.
that's
Tell
so
us."
good.
It's my own
It's
version of earn the right.
interesting. I know that you talk about listening as well. And one of my like favorite training sessions, workshops that I do with teams is on active listening. And it reminds me so much of one of the concepts we talk about. I teach this for our framework. One of the R's is resist. And one of the concepts we talk about under resist is resisting the temptation to judge that you know what they are trying to communicate or you know what they are trying to solve. And I think it is especially difficult for salespeople, especially if they've sold to the same ICP or sold a similar product for a long time, because they have heard the same problem over and over and over again. And this is my opinion. I want to hear your take. I don't think that people jump into that, like, I'm going to solve your problem mode because they want to hard sell somebody. I think that it's more likely they jump to assuming they have the answer because they are excited that they have
Yep.
the answer and they can be helpful. What have you seen?
Yeah, no, I think so. I was like, got it. He's saying, right,
Yeah.
bang, into that. And I haven't finished explaining. So I can't see how you can have got that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen it tons of times. So yeah, I do. I think it's a passion thing. And sometimes again with that engineering mindset like that, it's a fixed mindset, isn't it? It's not fixed versus growth. It's a fix it. It's a sort it. It's a get the job done fast. I can help you out here type thing. Rather than sometimes actually let's step back and look broader because there's other things that we need to be sorting out here. And actually that is why it's a slightly different fix here. But the profession in that case is to sort stuff fast. We don't like downtime. We don't like things not working. We want stuff to go well. So yeah, it comes from a good place.
Yeah.
um, we just need to resequence it a little bit.
Yeah. It comes from that place of passion and
Yeah.
excitement that we have a solution we can offer. And I think we as sellers forget how it feels to be on the other side of that conversation and to feel like we're not being listened to and not being heard.
So we kind of took a little detour there,
A
as one
little
does.
rabbit hole to listening.
It was a good one. Relevance, what matters, and then you said something, right, the news is it's not you, it's not your company, it's not
Yeah.
your product, it's not your service. Yeah. What is it then? If we're going to get super relevant and we've got this small amount of space, if we're thinking emails, or short amount of time, if we're thinking a call or a
Mhm.
video, what do we need to get in fast?
Yeah. Two ideas that I will share. One is that sending your emails, sending your outreach touches in a sequence is so important for indexing on relevance. One of the traps I see folks fall into if they are sending one-off emails is that they try to make a single email do all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
The easiest way to catch yourself doing this is if you feel like you want to put bullet points in a cold email, don't. What you're trying to do is combine however many bullet points it is, 4, you're trying to combine 4 emails into one. So if you catch yourself being tempted to organize the email using bullet points, just acknowledge that that's 4 different stories that you're trying to tell and make each of them their own email. So when we think about relevance, we have so few words to help somebody understand what the thing is that we believe is relevant to them and why we believe having a conversation or engaging with us is a great way to explore that that opportunity, that challenge, you can only talk about one very specific thing at a time. So I'll share that thought first, because that's a trap I see people falling into. I mean, heck, I've done it for sure. The day that I found out that it doesn't serve the prospect's brain to use bullet points, like I had to take a moment, go outside, take a few deep breaths, mourn the loss of bullet points in my emails, and then come back and write emails that better serve the brain of my prospect. So make sure that you are writing all of your emails in a sequence so that you give your space to tell multiple stories across multiple channels. That gives you the greatest possible chance of engaging with your prospect on their channel of choice with a message that resonates with them at some point in your sequence. So that's
When
the
you
first
say
idea.
multiple channels,
Yeah.
so we're talking email, but you're also saying that you might be messaging them on LinkedIn and phoning them, and it's the same thing that you're talking about. So if I was talking about engineering superego,
Yeah.
stay on engineering superego, don't worry about the intrinsic perception or the entitled approach, because that's now 3 things that you're overwhelming people with. Go with that. Boom, 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 boom. Next, go with that. Next, go with that.
Yeah. Perfect example.
And
Yeah.
get a bit techie on this then. So what if people, you're talking about sequencers, what if people say, I haven't got a sequencer, we haven't got a spangly CRM, we haven't got a thing that does this stuff? What's your response to that?
Bummer. Maybe you
Oh,
should spend some money on that.
bad luck. Come and see me at Sales-Led GTM
Right.
Agency.com.
I avoid sort of tech stuff like the
Yeah.
plague, because that is not how my brain works. But the price points of that type of tech are so low that really at this point, like, do what you can to invest in something that enables you to have an easier time sequencing. But even if you didn't, like, I grew up in very fiscally conservative organizations. I grew up in organizations where we were doing everything piecemeal, very manual, signing up for leads for free for 2 weeks and then canceling that one and starting a new one. Like, we were really hustling to sort of Frankenstein together our data, our tech stack. So I get it. I mean, my first sales job, we were using mail merges. We were faxing our proposals over because it was 7 pages and that was too big to send as an attachment through Outlook at the time. So I will also say that I understand and I empathize, but even if you have no tech stack, that doesn't mean that you can't sit down and be strategic about charting your steps and your messaging beforehand. Like, you can just put it in a Google Doc. Heck, you can write it in your notebook, but that way you know which days you are sending which messages on which channels, and it helps you with accountability, which means that you will resist the temptation to either over or under contact your prospect, and that when you are contacting your prospect, you are more likely to approach them on a diverse set of channels and with that relevant messaging because you've thought about it beforehand versus sort of like one-off shooting around emails.
Okay. So even as simple as week 1, send this email with this problem in. Week 2, send this email with this problem. Week 3. Now, if you're also using LinkedIn, post about that.
Yes.
And message them on that. So whatever week 1, week 2, week 3 is. I mean, you could probably just go back and repeat and back and repeat and back and repeat. So yeah, it's still doable.
Yeah, like so many things in life, consistency is really the key. So if you show up consistently, even if it is one message a week, that is going to be much better than a message here and then you forget about the prospect, and then 3 weeks later a message and you forget about them again, and then you send them a message on a Monday and on a Wednesday and on a Friday because you really need to close something at the end of the month. Like, that is the type of outreach that starts feeling really icky to our prospects and it gets us blocked It gets our
Good.
domains reported. So the consistency and the thoughtfulness in your approach, even if it isn't this tight, I'm going to do, 14 touches in 28 days type of messaging you might hear about
Mm.
on LinkedIn or with people using like sales enablement or sales engagement platforms. Don't get yourself too stressed out if you're just
Mm.
getting started. Figure out how to write short, less than 100-word messages that matter to them, and to do it in a way that is more planned out than you might be currently approaching your outreach.
Okay. And matters to them because it's about a problem they have, a frustration, a job to be done, maybe an aspiration, maybe a goal, but something big in their world, their life.
Yeah, a
Okay.
really easy test that people can do, they can audit their current emails if they're wondering, is this about me or is this about them? Is look for how much they are using I, my, we, our language. And if you find that most of your email is I think, my company, our tech, that means that you likely have not written an email that matters to the recipient. And a pivot for that is to use language that is, we call it like voice of the customer language often, but instead of saying, I think, you say, Fred did blah, blah, blah. Tina found blah, blah, blah. So just do your best to use less I, my, we, our language, and more language that centers the customers, their outcomes, their problems in the messaging.
Or even you. Would you put you? You
Me?
are doing this.
Oh
You are
yeah,
doing
you
this. You
go
are doing
hard on the
this.
you language.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I could say that. We probably should be sending an email
Yeah.
then.
You need to buy my product. No, I'm just kidding.
Now, you are customers like me. Oh, no. Okay. So, and then you said two things. One was just the sequencing. Just one was
Yeah.
about sequencing. The second thing you were going to say was what, or is what?
Is related to sequencing. One of the easiest ways to figure out how to do relevant messaging at scale, micro scale, is to create micro campaigns. And I love this strategy. I've been using it before I even had a name for it, because I love to batch things. And I was trying to figure out, when I was making 200 cold calls a day, how to make them faster and have the impact statement be better. And so I started batching. Okay, I'm only going to call CFOs in the Northeast in this industry, because then I can have an impact statement that references two of their quasi competitors who are in the industry, or another CFO who I know they'll be familiar with. And so I started using it before I even realized that it was a strategy or had a name for it. Now I call it value-based segmentation, or I call them micro campaigns. So how this would work for you is you'd look at your whole territory, and then you would try to build in at least 5 extra filters or 5 extra layers of segmentation. And so let's say it's only for CFOs. And you're already going to see how this fixes language, because it's not finance professionals or finance executives, it's CFOs. So it already feels more relevant because you're using a specific title. And if we're only talking about CFOs, we know that they care about or look at things much differently than, say, like a director of FP&A. So you're going to approach how you talk about the outcomes or the challenges differently. And then maybe we have 5 different industries that are considered our ICP industry. We're going to just pick one of them. And so maybe that's CPG, but then we're going to go even a layer deeper. And CPG is consumer packaged goods. And maybe we're going to go a layer deeper and only do F&B, which is food and beverage. And then we're only going to reach out to food and beverage CFOs in the United States. And then we're only going to reach out to CFOs of organizations between 6 and 10 billion, because we know that a CFO of a $6 billion organization is going to have much different priorities than one of a 300 million or of a $30 billion organization. So by building in those filters, you can be more thoughtful in what does this particular type of persona care about without feeling the pressure to do contact level personalization, and with being able to do some scaling, right? Like that's not going to be a message you send to 400 people, but 38, 42, right? So it allows you to move a little bit faster while still being hyper relevant in your outreach.
This will feel super personalized.
It
It
will.
will feel as though you're inside their head.
Yeah.
If you say, "Oh, I saw you at Birmingham University," right? You've been on my LinkedIn profile. If you say, sorry, you are having this problem," yeah, I am. Well, you got like a little like spy
Yeah.
camera here in my office. What's going on there? Yeah, and
It
then
feels so
and
personalized.
I guess the well, certainly the problem or the issue I find a lot of people doing this is that when you're getting them to do the micro campaign, they'll start doing it, and then they'll pull back and go, yeah, but what you don't understand, Fred, what you don't understand, Leslie, is what we do could be for all of these. And you're like, stop, time out. What did you just do then? You put yourself back into me, we,
Yeah.
I. You came out of their world. Get back in their world. Get back into their side. And that's hard. I find that when you're used to doing this, it comes quite naturally. But if you're not used to doing it, it's very hard to not retract back. And yeah, but what we do, what you don't understand. You don't understand. I do understand don't, what we do, and we have to catch people doing that, don't we? Or even better, get people to catch themselves doing it.
You're so right. And I think because sales is such a high pressure profession, that it can feel scary to pivot to this type of outreach, because it's not the like spam the TAM, spray and pray approach. So you are reaching out to fewer people overall, and that can feel scary. It can feel like you're reducing the chances that you're going to have a conversation. But because you are not saying, I hope you're well, and instead you're starting with relevant preview text, you're getting higher opens because you're writing an email that is about, you, the CFO of this $7.2 billion US based food and beverage company, they are much more likely to read and engage with that correspondence. So you're going to see your ratios tighten up, and then you're going to see when people enter your funnel that they are more qualified, there's more trust built, there's more credibility assumed from the get-go. But it can feel scary to transition from an outreach strategy where you're maybe emailing 1,000 people a week to one where you're maybe emailing 150. So I acknowledge that, but I promise that it works, and it works really well.
Awesome. Triple promise.
Triple promise. It was the
Promise.
Leslie Venetz triple promise.
Oh, awesome. Leslie, you've shared a ton here. I wonder if people are going to have to go back and rewind and sort of think about some of the stuff you were saying, because it will go against the grain for a lot of people, I think, listening. I'd encourage them to do that. Also to reach out to you, because you've got a ton of stuff around this, haven't you? A ton. What's the best place to reach out to find you?
LinkedIn. I am chronically online on LinkedIn. I think I'm at,
Chronically.
I've posted on LinkedIn over 1,500 days in a row now, or something just wild like that. So I have quite a cache of content for folks to go through there.
Something there. So if anyone has a specific question, then you can say, right, go and look at this post. This is where I talked exactly about that.
Find me on LinkedIn. Find me in the comments on LinkedIn. That's where I engage with folks the most.
In the comments, brilliant. Well, no, if they hear this, go connect or send you a request and mention that you'd heard us talking and what it was that stuck out. But that's brilliant. No, thank you so much for coming along and sharing some really cracking stuff. Really good.
Thanks so much for having me. This was a great conversation. I appreciate you, Fred.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the collaborative selling scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.